But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
There has to be an easier way to do that. Greetings to the ghosts of Gamergate, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio news number 153, drawing stick figures while male, Chinese feminism, and other madness. I am your host, Brian Martinez, and I am here with the grossly offensive co-hosts to look at the best feels, funnies, and what the fucks to discuss Slam Bam Badger style. Prepare your amygdala because we're going in dry. Before we even dive in, I'm going to ask that you please smash that like button. It really helps our analytics. And if you haven't subbed, please do so. And be sure to turn on that notifications bell so that you are sure to be notified when we go live, because YouTube doesn't seem to always do it if you don't press the bell button. So let us just dip our ankles in it. Today's Polecat panel consists of Maximilian, when life gives you lemons, you accuse them of cultural appropriation. Darrett. Just wait for laughs. No laughter? Okay.
They can't help the way that they're born. We're trying to encourage them to be part of the ethno state, just like that one lemon tree up on the hill. Shelbyville keeps take away from us. Motherfuckers, go ahead.
Our Polecat Punster and Pussycat Punisher, Hannah. Dr. Ranarakam, Evil Panda, Puppet Master, and Rabid Long Range Rhetorician. And me, the Supreme Doge in charge, back in the sack. We have a pretty interesting show for you guys today, so please be sure to continue the conversations both in the chat and in the comments section. We'll be talking about Vox invoking Gamergate's name like Beetlejuice or Candyman shortly after the release of Ultimate Nerd Fest of Ultimate Destiny, Ready Player One. Also, top UK prosecutor Alison Sanders resigns after several rape trials collapsed due to undisclosed evidence. Feminists in China are being censored and are using weaponized emojis to battle the Chinese government. I'm not kidding. A boy draws stickmen with guns and knives, while unbeknownst to him, such transgressions come with a heavy penalty. And a British feminist, lawyer, CEO, and Ally McBeal enthusiast begins to question how her female empowerment goals are impacting her son. And finally, our bonus story for the patron-only after show. Retired public official and international lawyer John Davis has written a piece on Medium entitled Gender Bullying and Shooters. We'll give it a read and see what he concludes in the wake of the Parkland shooting. Anyway, if you would like to participate in our after shows either as an audience member or a participant, please consider becoming a patron at www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. And if you don't want to wake up one morning and find yourself unable to find our content because YouTube finally dropped the guillotine on our channels, go to badgerfeed.com. That is badgerfeed.com. Now, so as we were setting this whole thing up, there was some really recent, as in breaking news that just happened that I feel like we need to give a mention to. So there was a shooting at YouTube headquarters earlier today. I mean, like maybe very recently, let's put it that way. And we don't know a whole lot about it. Max and Allison are going to be doing a Breaking Badger on it after we are done with the Polecat here. So be on the lookout for that shortly after the HBR news show ends. I'm sorry, I still call it the Polecat sometimes. So some details that we do have. At least 4 people were wounded in the suspected shooter. A woman was found dead on the campus of the YouTube headquarters. San Bruno Police Chief Ed Barberini told reporters on Wednesday. The chief said that the deceased woman had an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. Ambulances transported 4 or 5 patients to hospitals after a shooting was reported at YouTube headquarters in San Bruno, California. Law enforcement officials tell CNN's Evan Perez the suspected shooter at YouTube headquarters in San Bruno, California was a woman, and she is dead. San Bruno police said earlier on Twitter, quote, "We are responding to an active shooter. Please stay away from Cherry Ave and Bay Hill Drive." One YouTube employee said people were trying to get out of the building as fast as they could. She said she was on a conference call and her boss, who heard shouts, told her at least one person was shot on the patio where people eat. "We're all suddenly aware of a lot of noises, of sounds, people running outside the room where she was, and people screaming," said the employee who was in a building down the street. "I had to get out of here," the woman said, the colleague said. So there's more to it, but we didn't have this plan as part of our show for today, and we didn't have the time to prepare anything. So what we're going to do is going to leave this to Max and Allison to discuss. But I thought I would bring it up, and our sympathies go out to any of the injured or any potential victims of this tragedy. If you know anybody down there, maybe you should give them a call, see if they're okay, see what they know about what's going on. Does anybody else want to make any brief comments on this story before we get into the meat?
Attention, partisan sensationalist journalists. The first one of you to blame this on Punisher Muslim Day gets 20 progress points.
30 if you mention toxic masculinity, and 50 if you mention internalized misogyny.
And I fully expect that the pundits will come out and start blaming her behavior on some guy in her life. It'll be somebody's fault, but not hers. It's got to be toxic masculinity. It's got to be some sort of experience that she's had, or some sort of something a man did to her, or some way a man influenced her, or just the pressure of working in a male-dominated environment. Anything but the fact that a woman could have done something reprehensible and actually be as responsible for it as any man, much less this reflect on all women the way it allegedly reflects on all men.
Well, you know who's
when a guy
responsible
does
for
this?
this? You know who's responsible for this? The women's rights movement. It's them WMAs. No, those WRAs. I keep forgetting it because it's not a thing. It's not an initialism for some reason. It's them damn WRAs who are responsible for the. Yeah, that's what it tastes like, folks. Let's imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But just quickly to Hannah's previous point, there are actually people I've seen on Twitter before the show trying to pass the particular. I haven't seen it substantiated. This has to do with some sort of domestic situation. We do not know that. Don't surround that information and pretend like it's the truth. It's equally as likely that this woman could have just gone nuts. So.
But it can't be domestic, because women don't do that, right? We get told that all the time. That's a male behavior. And all of the times that women initiate, they're not really initiating. It's preemptive self-defense.
Wait, what you're saying is half of
Max, you're breaking.
Are responsible.
Max, you're breaking up. I can't make out the sentences. I'm sorry. Also, Mike, could you turn your volume up a little bit? The audience is saying you're a little bit low.
I think I can do that, or I can try and shout loud. I think I heard half of what Max said. I think one of the words he said was half, and I heard half of it. That was
that was.
Max, are you there?
You hear me?
Yeah, you're just breaking up a lot for some reason. You're getting a little. You're dropping. Are you downloading porn?
No, somebody else probably is, or it could just be the rain.
Okay.
We've been getting 1 out of every 3 or 4 syllables from you.
Yeah, it's like breaking up a lot.
We got 0 that time if you were talking.
Yeah.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, we got that.
Apparently your internet runs on frustration.
My internet runs on a fucking potato.
Toronto
like
internet, guys.
My band runs on cuss words.
A potato called the Queen of England, thank you very much. She's a very pretty potato.
For her age. So we'll see how well it does. If it's really bad, then maybe it's an opportunity for you to go work on that Breaking Badger with Allison anyways. If it doesn't get any better.
No, we want Max here. Stay
No,
there.
I want Max here too. I do. But I mean, if his internet's really bad, we can't hear him. You know what you could do is you could try rebooting and come back in, because I'm going to talk about a couple of other things before we get into the stories.
Well, take those internet voles that you have in Canada and just smack them on the ass like a pony that you're riding. Do it.
So we got a very, very generous donation in the form of a super chat from Troy Davidson. He gave us $100 American. Holy cow, man. Thanks so much. That's crazy. And he says, "Hey, Badgers, I'm a 19-year-old man from New York. I've been watching you guys for years, and you've helped me through a lot of tough times. I've managed to finally get a job after Allison's pep talk on the second Tucker Carlson vid boosted my confidence. I'm paying it forward. Thank you." Wow, that's great. I'm so happy for you. I really am. I'm glad you got a job. I'm glad things are working out. That's really reassuring. That's twice this week I've seen some fruit come out from the people who travel in our circles. Put it that way. You know,
it's good to know you can change people's minds by yelling at them.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Sometimes is what people need to hear. They want to see us rage sometimes. All right, the other thing is, did you guys know that this month is Testicular Cancer Awareness Month? I personally was not aware of that. I'm just giving a mention. It was something I learned about, so...
maybe we need an awareness day to make us aware of the awareness month.
Yeah, that's
There
right.
we go. We need awareness month, awareness day.
So just I just thought I would mention it. This is Testicular Cancer Awareness Month. That is the month of April. May as well know that now before, ideologues try to take it away or make it about something else or otherwise try to dismiss it out of hand. And grab life by the ball is I would also add on top of that. So just be aware that it is a Wrecking Ball Day, a month rather. So there you go. The other thing is, you may have heard. Do you guys that are watching, audience members, do you guys know about the privilege rap? Do you remember the privilege rap? I'm sure it was going around,
yes.
right?
It's like less than a week ago, maybe two. I don't. It's not just Sargon talked about it. Chris Reagan talked about it, and that means it's big.
Yeah, Chris Reagan talked about it. Sargon talked about it on his other channel. It's been making the rounds. I've seen it online. So the privilege rap came out, and it was just really cringy rap done by the ABC, which is the Australian equivalent to the BBC. Kind of like a children's show. So it's this very cringy rap that's like, kind of a hello fellow kids type style, Jesus Christ is my nigga. And they made that, and there was a bunch of people made videos responding to it on how ridiculous it was and how cringy it was. And then the privilege rap people at the ABC decided the best course of action was to make another video that responds to the internet. And it's entitled, The Internet. And it talks about what the internet is. And it's even worse than the original privilege rap. And if you've seen it, then you might know that they have two characters. I can't remember the female character who's considered the normie that likes to post pictures of her food and her pets on Instagram, but there is Kevin, and Kevin is the alt-right angry troll that hangs around 4chan and collects. Does he collect memes? I think it was, or he views memes
and manages to have a pot belly even in pixel art.
Yeah. So I saw that the Kevin thing, and I saw people talking about it online, and I recommend that if you guys want to make a statement, there is a hashtag going around called hashtag I am Kevin or we are all Kevin, and I suggest that you consider using it. So yeah, they visit memes. That's right, they visit memes. That's what they wrote.
And if you happen to be a French viewer, make sure you post under the hashtag Je suis Kevin.
Yeah, or Je suis Kevin. Yes, exactly. So I just wanted you guys to know that I am Kevin. And
also castigate them for appropriating Karen's dog's name.
Yes.
Who I think appropriated it from Kevin Logan.
Well,
that's hilarious.
It's a kid who names things. Well, her kid is a teenager. He's a teenager at this point. Who has who sort of spends a lot of time with it. And I think it was his idea to name him Kevin, probably after Kevin Logan. Or maybe after Karen's porn name.
I think it's after Karen's real identity name, Kevin Strong. That's not a porn name. That's
there
her.
You go.
That's her real, her true self.
Her true identity.
I know how that kid's mind works. He's a little troll because he wants to call it Warski now instead of Kevin. You see what I'm saying?
There is no Doge. There is only Kevin. Michael Keller asked what happened to the Doge. We are all Kevin now. Look at me. Okay, so let us go ahead and get into the stories. Max, you are going to start us off, my brother.
Okay, I don't sound like I'm speaking through a fan anymore.
You sound fine. Did you do something and come back?
Yeah, you sound chocolatey and caramelly and vanilla-y, all of the races.
My unlimited love to you.
Sorry, I forgot about custard. You sound like custard, like a proud custard race.
You did, but you forgot creme brulee.
Is that yellow?
Yeah.
Ah.
I mean, when you look beyond the burnt top, anyways.
We don't have that French crap over here. We have custard. I know you call it creme anglais, but we call it fucking creme.
Cream. Get on top. Okay, moving on. So we're going to be talking about this really weird article that came out of Vox. In case you guys didn't know, there was this movie that was released last Friday called Ready Player One. I happened to see it. It was a very, very good movie. But apparently there's one woman from Vox, I believe she's a woman, that's taking issue with some of the people that are saying that the original book that it was based off of wasn't very good, and as well as potentially the people that don't think the movie was very good. So Constance Grady is the name of the woman. She's trying to understand why several online publications don't seem to sing the book's praises like they did in 2011. Rather, they are lamenting the release of the new movie. Lamenting the release of the new movie as well as the original book. She cites the following quotes. Here's one quote from the outline from August 9th, 2017, giving a review of the book as well as a prediction for the upcoming movie. It's pretty succinct. All they say is Ready Player One is a terrible book and it will be a terrible movie. Great journalism there, guys. Moving on. Hold on. Oh, yeah, you do have the quotes coming up. Okay, quote number 2. Man. Quote from the AV Club, that's audiovisual, from July 24th, 2017. Many people find his take on games and so-called genre art to be a dull pandering tableau of reference points as an end unto themselves. Quote number 3 from a publication I've never heard of called Tor. Okay. Reading the end of Ready Player One, I felt like a kid who thinks eating an entire cake by himself sounded fun. I was sick of it and craving something of real substance. Now, for myself personally, I can understand why, even though I really enjoyed the Ready Player One movie and I think it's a decent extension of the book, I can understand why there's some people that think that all the references are just there for the sake of references and they don't add much substance to the overall narrative. I disagree with that, but I can understand why some people say that.
However, isn't what happened? Isn't it what happened in Tron? I mean, they're in a video game and for all its action and shit, but it's all human relationships in the end. Because it's been a story that's been around since graphics were like Atari style, and now we've got like VR that fucking works and everything, and it's amazing. You'd think the video game based stories would have moved on a bit.
There's some elements of Tron in there. It's more like taking place in a future dystopia where everybody's just playing online games all the time. But anyways, Constance wonders why a book that was considered a perfect gem by geek culture back in 2011 is now considered everything wrong with the internet 7 years later. Anybody want to take a guess as to what her answer was for this conundrum?
Was it the classic internet boogeyman, quote, Gamergate, unquote?
Yeah, the hacker known as 4chan.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Sam Hyde.
Classic. Sam Hyde. Yeah.
He can't keep getting away with it.
He's
I will find you, Sam Hyde.
Okay. You guys just tripped me up there. Okay. Yes, it is Gamergate. Whatever possible situation that involves, people criticizing social justice warriors on the internet, it always must be an extension of Gamergate. I really wish, as somebody who supported Gamergate 4 years ago, I really wish the whole thing would just fucking die already. Why is my avatar replaced by Kevin?
Because you're Kevin now too.
I didn't.
Because you just complained online.
Pretty sure you said I'm Kevin. And I just said it. I mean, it doesn't matter. Context doesn't matter in this country, so go ahead.
Yeah, I guess, the context of what I said before. Okay, well, going on. Here's a quote from Vox, from Constance herself regarding how she perceives Gamergate.
Yeah, there I go. Sorry.
And then there'll be several more quotes to follow, so just prepare your buttholes for cringe. Okay. Gamergate was a toxic cultural battle filled with harassment so vicious it would become a major influence on the alt-right. No. Okay, anyways. But fundamentally, it was about who gets to be a geek, which parts of geek identity are worth lauding, and which parts are destructive. To that, I just say #NotYourShield. Moving on. Gamergate changed the way we talk about geek culture, and in the end, it would make it borderline impossible to think about books like Ready Player One as harmless, meaningless fun. Well, I don't know. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people on the fucking internet, people that I know within Gamergate that have seen Ready Player One and think it's just wonderful. But that would imply that some people like myself viewed Gamergate as just a consumer revolts for better ethics in games journalism.
Yeah, but Max, Gamergate is so much more than that, apparently. Gamergate is the alt-right. Gamergate is MRAs. Gamergate got Trump elected. Gamergate is Kekistan. It's everywhere. It's everything.
Gamergate was the second shooter on the grassy knoll.
Yes.
I knew it.
Now, apparently, there's been a lot of articles about this movie being misogynistic, and I haven't seen the movie. I don't know what's going on, but apparently their diagnosis is because I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but by the end of the movie, he leaves the digital world and discovers that the key to success is being approved of in real life by the standards of an individual woman.
What? No, that's just one small element of the overall narrative.
You see, that's treating women as prizes and objects. You see, if you consider the approval of an individual woman to be more important than everything going on in the digital world, absolutely all of it. That's misogyny. Do you see? That's what that is.
And yet, if you don't seek female approval, it's because you hate women.
Just hate them.
Hate women. Women are just the most evil thing to you in the world if you don't seek female approval. And how dare you go your own way? Because obviously that's an attack on women, and women are going to suffer due to your inactions towards them.
The more
you're not entitled to any contact.
The more you try to love them, the less they love you for it.
Yep.
That's fucked up, isn't it, guys? But it's kind of true.
It's almost like you can't fucking win. It's almost like you are the ones that need to get your house in order. Okay, moving on to the next quote. Hit me, Brian.
All right, God, I gotta put up the PowerPoint again. Do it.
All right. This is an expansion on her perception of what Gamergate was. Gamergate's origins are nebulous and contradictory. No, they're really not. As ably outlined by my colleague Todd Vanderwerf.
Well, they are if you're going to the media to figure out what it is. True. Like if you watch all of the balanced coverage by David Pakman, then you're gonna come away with going, I don't know what it is, and he had a bunch of people on. That was the best you could hope for from the mainstream media, and trust me, David Pakman did not do Gamergate any justice.
He tried. I mean, of like all the mainstream media, if you want to call them mainstream, of all the media outlets, he actually tried.
Well, he did bring on people, but at the end of the day, if you look at his conclusion video, he concludes that Gamergate is directionless and it's not worth anybody's trouble. It's pointless. It was dumb. It was so cringe. It was lame.
It's not like we cost Gawker millions of dollars in advertising. It's not like we got all the major video game websites to change their ethics policies. Yeah, it was just a campaign to hurt. where am I? What's important for the Ready Player One conversation is what game.
Hello?
And that is.
Oh. Go ahead, Max. You're breaking up again, but go ahead.
Oh, am I okay?
Yeah, you sound okay now. Go ahead.
All right. Okay, let me start again. What's important for the Ready Player One conversation is what Gamergate had evolved into by 2015, and that is, wait for it, angry gamers, mostly young, straight, white men, hurling abuse at their targets, mostly women, in the name of a kind of nerd purity. Yeah, let's just forget about the fact that we had, what was it? We got the Gingerarchy backing us up. We got all the women here at Honey Badger Radio. We had Mercedes Carrera. We had Mary Angela from the Gamergate in Toronto chapter of Gamergate. Yeah. Tons of other ones that I can mention, but we still got to get through this.
Hey, Hannah's the only one who's not Kevin now. Are you okay with that, Hannah?
No, I am Kevin.
There you go.
Okay, she wants to be Kevin. Make her Kevin. I want to maintain my yellowness. Okay, I don't need it being appropriated by pixel art.
We are all Kevin.
Well, Hannah's a woman. She doesn't get her own consent. Her consent belongs to the state. Oh, wait, she's Kevin now. Okay.
Yes. But that is true. That is true.
She's being raped by pixel art. There's a sentence I never thought I'd say. Okay, moving on to the next. Moving on.
In which, of course, your critic here that's been writing this is going to project more of what Anti-Gamergate was about onto Gamergate, correct?
2 words: Custer's revenge. That's all I'm gonna say. And you give me the next quote. Brian knows what I'm talking about. Okay, next one. That abuse took the form of graphic rape and death threats, sometimes so detailed and specific that some of the women targeted by Gamergate went into hiding. Occasionally, Gamergaters would send SWAT teams to their targets' homes, a popular trolling tactic that has led to death in at least one case. Now, I have a couple things to say.
Wait, the CSI thing was just a TV show. It's not real. Raina Punjabi is alive and well, and Logan Paul is still making videos. He did not get killed on the rooftop by Ice-T. Come on. It's television.
It was proved that like the only death threat that a certain literally who couldn't be proved to have sent herself came from what? Brazil. I don't think that person was going to track her down anytime soon. But this is kind of stupid. I mean, they know that this is not true. They know that there were no SWAT teams sent to anybody's home by Gamergate supporters. However, there were threats. There were Gamergate supporters who were sent. Like there was, oh gosh, I can't think of who it was. She was sent. There were a couple of women actually, and Not Your Shield, who were sent blueprints of their homes with letters that were, very subtly conversational. Oh, by the way, how's your cousin so and so doing? I hope they're doing well in their prestigious school, name of school, location, and so on, and that their officer that deals with their morality, that allows them to stay at the school and so on, doesn't hear anything negative about them. Blah blah blah. It was really threatening, and it was really subtle. And it was done in such a way that contacting the police would have been not so effective. Not that they didn't do it anyway, but that didn't come from Gamergate. That was launched at Gamergate. And the FBI did an investigation and found that the supporters of Gamergate were the ones facing most of the harassment and most of the abuse in that discussion. So it's not just, the individuals that actually got those type of threats. It's overall. This is all 100% projection. It goes right back to that adage, SJWs always project.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone on the aggro side that's been swatted or that has any evidence of being swatted. The only person I know who has, audio evidence of being swatted is Mundane Matt. And he's certainly not, he's on the Gamergate side of things. I mean, it's fucking old hat now. But these sorts of things are why I, don't blame Matt for any of the shit he doesn't take these days. Because, he's actually actually face this shit.
Yeah, and let's not forget, like, speaking of Monday Matt swatting, it was his video about the whole conspiracy thing that made Internet Aristocrat do a video on his video getting improperly copyrighted, and and it improperly got taken down, and it sort of spurred the whole thing off into what it became. So. Yeah. Apparently, the Gamergate, the leaders, the main voices behind Gamergate were swatting each other just for shits and giggles. What did I say about turning me back into my yellow skin, Brian?
Let me switch it back, but before I do, I want to make a response. People in the comments are wondering why this isn't broadcasting on Badger live streams, and I forgot to explain that we were doing a special patron-only show. And it caused us to get a copyright strike on our Badger Live Streams channel. We are not going to be able to stream on that channel for 3 months. So, for the time being, all streams will be done through the main channel at Honey Badger Radio until that is over. We're currently working on an appeal, so we might be able to get it removed, but we may just be doing this on this channel only for the next 3 months. So just tune in here or Twitch or Facebook and just watch it there.
All your streams belong to us. All right. Last quote. Bring you back to the whole story to Ready Player One. All right. This is the final quote of the write-up that I provided, and it sort of summarizes why she thinks that people are responding negatively to Ready Player One, and why she thinks it's Gamergate's fault. In a pre-Gamergate world, the sheer glee and fun of moments like that were enough to make the dark underbelly of the fantasy disappear and carry Ready Player One to the heights of cultural phenomena. But post-Gamergate, the dark underbelly has become all too apparent. The fun isn't quite enough to carry the book anymore, so now the onus is on Spielberg's forthcoming movie to overcome its Gamergate baggage. Well, for the most part, it seems like it did. I mean, the majority of people seem to be really taking to it, and the people that don't seem to like it, based on what I've read, they seem to offer legitimate criticisms that don't have anything to do with gatekeeping and nerd culture. You know?
Yeah, aside from the fact that, does this person realize that Gamergate was, despite, the amount of influence it had, it wasn't so huge that everyone knew about it. It was still a pretty uncommon thing, or people had just maybe heard of it, but they didn't really know the details. Very few people actually knew, in scale, very few people actually knew what it was and why it existed. So to think that it has some kind of crazy impact after is it's pretty dumb. So yeah.
Actually, I think when these people write this shit, they're counting on that. They're counting on people not knowing what they're writing about. That way they can use Gamergate as a boogeyman, and when more people see this type of criticism, sorry guys, my allergies are just going ballistic tonight. When people see this kind of criticism and they don't see anything else, they'll develop, the idea is they'll develop this perception of Gamergate as being the thing described, being the boogeyman described. I think though it's because that these social justice warriors actually think it still is going on and still has a degree of power that they've attributed to it, and that's actually going to come out from under the bed anytime in the middle of the night and get them. And really, I think there's been a level of cohesiveness between Gamergate supporters that I don't think social justice types actually understand. So they're still fighting the war on their side of the fence. And on the opposite side of the fence, I think we've all moved on to other issues and other discussions. And they've been kind of left behind. And I think this is them still trying to lash out, we were right, and get the at least some manner of public acknowledgement.
It's like getting the last
belief.
It's like getting the last word in, but in public space with no one to respond
basically.
to you.
Yeah. It's like that person that you get into the Twitter fight with that keeps repeating the same talking points over and over again in response to your criticisms, and then When you finally give up, they declare themselves the winner because you didn't respond to the same talking points again the 50th time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. All right. So
you don't have to ban these people from the internet. Just don't argue with them, you know?
Yeah, you don't have to engage them. Just that's another way to deal with it. All right, so my main reason for choosing this story was I just thought it was really interesting that people were still invoking Gamergate after most people involved with Gamergate don't even call it Gamergate anymore, and they're just they're just talking about, you know, stuff going on in the industry. They're concerned with ideologues, but they don't usually have a name for it. So, but of course, this is exactly as Hannah said. They want to make it a boogeyman, and as long as this sort of thing is happening, Gamergate will remain relevant, even though you might not want it to be, because the journos don't care. All right. Well, anyway, moving on to the next story. Now, there was a breaking badge that went up about this earlier. I know that Max and Karen talked about it at length, but at least in this case, we can give Mike and Hannah a chance to give their 2 cents, as well as Max can sort of, you know, reiterate some of the main points on it. So, Alison Saunders, Director of Public Prosecutions in England and Wales, will be stepping down when her 5-year contract ends in October of this year. Saunders most notably
Interesting that it's not Scotland. Yeah. Specifically England and Wales and not the other.
Yeah. It really bakes the pistachios there. Saunders most notably oversaw the Stephen Lawrence murder case, in which 18-year-old Stephen Lawrence was the victim of an unprovoked, racially motivated stabbing in 1993. The Crown Prosecution Service and Saunders herself came under fire recently when several rape trials collapsed due to evidence not being disclosed. It was later revealed that the number of prosecutions in England and Wales that had collapsed due to the failure to disclose evidence had risen 70% in the last 2 years. Saunders herself describes the situation as extremely regrettable, as part of a, quote, systemic failing across the justice system, which has been happening, quote, for some years now. This isn't Saunders' first brush with controversy.
It's interesting that she called it a systemic failing, because that is the correct use of systemic. You can have a systemic failure, but there's no such thing as a systematic failure. Mm-hmm. Well, there is, but only after the time. I don't think it's a systemic failure. I think this is systematic success, isn't it?
Ah. Okay. Go ahead and expand on that.
Well, have you finished reading the story?
All right, I'll finish reading the story. Yeah. In June of 2015, Saunders faced calls to resign after her decision to not prosecute Labour MP Lord Greville Janner, wow, it doesn't get much more British than that, over child sexual abuse allegations. Her decision was made despite the Crown Prosecution Service stating there was enough evidence to merit prosecution. An independent Queen's Counsel overturned her decision.
You fucking idiot. Why is it not in the public's interest to prosecute a potential child sexual assaulter? I don't care if he potentially has dementia. He has to suffer somehow for his transgressions. He's ruined the lives of children. Forever.
Yes, sir. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It's crazy. Daniel Janner, Lord Janner's son and himself a criminal law Queen's Counsel, called Saunders, quote, an appalling DPP, which is Director of Public Prosecutions, and that she was, quote, regarded by those in the legal profession as someone who wasn't up to the job. Sir Jeremy Haywood, head of the UK Civil Service, spoke highly of Saunders in a tweet. Quote, many thanks to Alison Saunders for her superb leadership of @CPS UK over the last 4+ years. She has been a great colleague and a dedicated public servant. The Attorney General Jeremy Wright also had kind words for her, stating she was an accomplished CPS prosecutor whose successful record includes the prosecution of Stephen Lawrence's killers, and, quote, I have no doubt that she'll be greatly missed within the organization.
except for the young men who fucked her over. Just a couple of things before, Mike and Hannah give their opinions.
Go ahead, Max.
When we did the Breaking Badger episode earlier today, one thing that Karen brought to my attention that was really interesting, you know how in the write-up that Mike J.
Who must be obeyed.
Yeah, she who must be obeyed. She really appreciates that. In the write-up that Mike J did earlier on, you mentioned how there's been several collapsing rape trials during her tenure. Apparently, Karen, I don't know how true this is, but she says that this is likely due to the fact that ever since 2012, authorities and police departments across England and the UK have been sort of encouraged to take a listen and believe attitude, because that way, because in the majority of sexual assault cases, a lot of the supposed perpetrators walk free. At least if you put them through a grueling trial process, that can be a form of punishment. So, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's what I meant by this isn't so much a systemic failure as this is the system doing what the system is told to do.
Right. By
someone higher up in the system. They're getting their, I listened to the Breaking Badger, Karen had to say, their marching orders involve, believe victims to the nth degree, and don't even ask any questions that make it sound like you don't believe them, because otherwise you risk traumatizing them. And this is the model they're sort of going with, and the idea that that police are sort of not showing important evidence, and they'd rather get men on the other side of the jail cell than than collect evidence objectively. It's not a failure of the system. It's what they're being told to do by whatever the fuck's going on.
And quickly, before anybody accuses us of being conspiracy theorists, I just want to bring you back to a Breaking Badger episode that we did on the subject back in late January. Apparently, the reason why a lot of these trials have been collapsing is because the police failed to disclose electronic evidence. Now, I can't assume that the police are just that incompetent or that senile or that stupid to not submit evidence like text messages that are shared on their phones. I believe they realize that there is this thing called the internet, and that a lot of people communicate via phones nowadays. And in a lot of these cases, the exonerating evidence was discovered by phones. So why would they be withholding that? Why wouldn't that be submitted? Well, it's because they want to believe that in the majority of cases that women are telling the truth, hence listen and believe. So we're not crazy. Sorry,
Well,
Hannah.
and this is this is a result of feminist jurisprudence. Feminist jurisprudence is actually feminist guidance of the legal system. And if you look it up, it's an actual thing. It's not just something that I've made up. You can see it described in legal forums, and you can see it defined in everything. And the fact is, the guidance that feminism gives to the legal system and to the law enforcement system is that it doesn't matter what a woman says after sex. It doesn't matter whether she continues to hang out with her alleged perpetrator. It doesn't matter if she has sex with him again. If she says that one time was rape, then by definition of her saying it, just by virtue of her saying it, it must be defined as rape. The feminists portray the situation as though an acquittal is always wrongful. That no matter what the evidence is, no matter what is said about the case, whether the guy was even there or not, if she says she was raped, then she was raped, and therefore an acquittal is a violation of her rights, not a legal outcome that is the result of proper investigation and analysis. So as long as they're allowed to make that their guidance for the legal system, we will continue to see shit like this, where it's treated as though it is an illegitimate response for the state to give a man a fair trial if he's been accused of rape by a woman. And that's what we're looking at here. That's the result, is all of these cases that end up collapsing because exculpatory evidence is exculpatory. Feel like a meme. Exculpatory evidence is exculpatory, but and because it is possible for a woman to lie, and it happens a lot more frequently than feminists admit.
Yeah, and this is good news. Very good news, though, right? It's as Mike said, it's a systematic victory.
Yep. This is what happens when you don't do your fucking job.
This is how we learn things in the world. We are all going to the school of hard knocks.
No, this is
tuition. We learn that the wrong way to handle things by fucking up and suffering consequences.
like I was saying, this isn't people not doing their jobs properly. It's people doing their jobs on the orders of insane people. It's like people, the police in Britain are notoriously bad at tracking down and prosecuting certain religions of people. Oh, I forgot what my point was.
It's not you were saying that it's not the failure of people, but it's other people doing their jobs.
Yeah. It's not and people keep reporting it as they're afraid of being racist. They don't want to do anything that might appear to be. Yeah, it's not that they're afraid. It's not that they're individually having emotions that stop them from doing this. It's in the paperwork. It's in the guidelines. They are told you cannot do this or that or the other or the because you'll get investigated for fucking racism. Like, I don't want people, because it's easy to blame the police for the fucked up situation in Britain right now, with certain people going to prison for stupid shit like telling a joke with a pug, and in the meantime, rape gangs not going to prison. And obviously, you want to point at the police and yell at them, you're not doing your jobs properly. But they're doing their jobs according to guidelines, and we don't know who's giving them those guidelines. But what's happening is, you got a situation where a woman can point at a man and say rape, and the police will deny all evidence apart from that which concludes that she's telling the truth. And you go, well, this is absurd. That no one wants this situation. Surely this is some kind of dystopian nightmare that no one really wants. No, loads of people want this. This is exactly what has been demanded by feminist academia, and not just feminist academia. Fucking all kinds of evil vines growing in academia, because to a large degree, police and law get their ideas from academia, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. They get it from the academics that maybe they go on into positions of political power, or at least political lobbying and interest groups and stuff.
Merit costs. Excuse me.
Yeah, if you can't convince people with an argument, then just convince their children in the next generation while their heads are still soft.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, yeah. So it's a win. So yeah, we'll just see how things continue to unfold. And if you guys watch the Breaking Badger. If you haven't already seen this, you can get Karen's views on this story. It's actually pretty interesting. A ludicrous leprechaun said something. I wanted to go back to it. It wasn't a super chat, but I still thought it was interesting. He said, at Honey Badger Radio, are you aware of the population of Ireland going apeshit because several guys were found not guilty in a rape trial? I wasn't aware of that, but I'm not surprised. Nope. When you say apeshit, do you mean angry because they should have been convicted because they were accused? I'm assuming that's what you mean.
Is it like a Brock Turner case where it's obviously like he was guilty? Like, what?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the story, but he says it was because they were accused, but that doesn't necessarily mean they were guilty. So yeah, I could see how people would get upset because it's really effective to make an accusation because people tend to side with the victim without it before any information has even come out. It's still difficult to defend Bill Cosby now, despite the fact that there's plenty that of things you can look at and sources that tell you that there isn't enough evidence to convict, and so therefore you should theoretically throw the whole thing out and say, well, okay, people were just trying to accuse him of stuff. But that's hard to shake off because the power of the accusation is so much, especially when women are the ones making the accusation. It's just a culturally powerful tool. The same thing goes for there was somebody else. Oh yeah, Trump, right? The grab him by the pussy thing, and like this Stormy Daniels story and shit. It's just so effective, and people just they just fall for it hook, line, and sinker. I'm not saying that they're lying, but I'm saying that people are too quick to believe when there isn't enough information, when they should be able to say, well, I don't know if that's true or not. I think I'll wait and see if more facts come out. And until then, I'm going to remain ambivalent on whether or not this is a thing. But this doesn't work that way. So sure, if you learn that a bunch of Irish people were accused of rape, but they were found not guilty, then most people are going to think they got away with something, when in actual fact, they may have genuinely been innocent.
I found news stories as thousands march in support of complainant after Irish rugby players are cleared of rape. Campaigners say a case will deter victims from coming forward. They say this every time. If these guys actually did nothing, if they are not guilty of raping anyone, and acquitting them isn't going to keep people who have actually been raped from coming forward. But feminists telling people that acquitting the actually not guilty is going to indicate that the guilty will also be acquitted, that might keep actual victims from coming forward. If feminists lie to them about what this means, that might keep actual victims from coming forward. But here you have this group of people, and they had Chance. Chance, or 2468, consent is not up for debate, and my black dress does not mean yes. So apparently they decided they wanted to sing to the public.
Yeah, but what if they were literally saying, please put it in my asshole? Is that yes? Because I know that in a lot of these cases where people get accused of rape, it's because they had sex with them. And then the sex, that can be proven. But what's hard to prove is the consent part. And then you get like these texts or emails that come out later that are like, can you please put it in my butthole next time? And then we have to like believe that that's rape.
You know what's really missing from this article is the basis for the acquittal. Like, why were they found not guilty? It doesn't say. Just says that all the feminist women in Ireland are angry. There's a couple other articles that I've seen. One of them, the Irish Mirror, has an opinion piece: rape trial protesters should remember verdict was not guilty. And the Independent has a couple of articles on it. The Irish Times has an article on it. The BBC.com has an article on it. So apparently this is like Sputnik News has an article on it. This is apparently a really big deal with them. It's as bad as the protests, I guess. After was it John? How do you say his last name? Giameshi. The Canada.
Yeah, Gian Gomeshi.
Gian Gomeshi. Mm-hmm. Okay, I don't know. It was not a case that I followed. I know Karen followed it, and Diana Davison did an excellent breakdown of it, according to Karen. But yeah, the one thing I am aware of is that there was reason to find him not guilty, because of the actual proved conspiracy among his accusers.
Yeah, they co-conspired,
and people still protested.
And they all wanted him too. I mean, they were like begging for it, like in emails and text correspondence, and and he was into some like kinky kind of violent shit, but they were too. They wanted it. It was like it was just shit we didn't need to know about that they really into. I mean, I'm no fan of Gian Gomeshi, but he was not a rapist. Period.
It's 50 Shades of how to get women's porn into the mainstream media.
50 Shades of Vagana.
And like the Brock Turner thing was similar, although the protest was the local protest, at least where he lives, was much smaller. But they brought guns and they didn't just bring guns.
Oh, yeah.
They brought guns that could shoot through brick and mortar into a residential neighborhood where there are children living there, and protested this, not because the guy was acquitted and not because he got a short sentence for rape, but because he was convicted of something other than rape and got a sentence that was appropriate to the crime that he committed on the basis that the judge believed him. You know, the jury believed the accuser, the judge believed the accused. And frankly, I believe the accused as well. I find the idea that the two of them wandered off into the alleyway to have sex more plausible than the idea that this guy carried this woman all that distance without being noticed by anyone while he was blind, stinking, stumbling, falling down drunk himself. And as far as the protest goes, you know, the guy was found more responsible for a sex act that two people engaged in until one of them passed out. He was found more responsible for that sex act than his partner, who was the same level of drunk, according to the way they label different stages of drunkenness.
Yeah.
And he was held more responsible because he's a guy under the law. They should be satisfied with that, because that's farther than I would go with it. I would say the two did something incredibly stupid. They got drunker than they should have got. They're lucky that they didn't make a baby. They're lucky that one of them didn't give the other one a disease, you know, and they should move on with their lives. But we got people in the, you know, this was in the Dayton metro area, showed up with you know, guns that, like I said, can shoot through brick and mortar, to protest this. Like, what were they going to do when he comes out of the house and they're going to shoot him? You know, a bunch of dumbasses showed up to protest this ruling, and it's the same thing in this case. Here you have these
if you convince
rugby players.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you convince people that a verdict was unjust, and then you put it in their heads that the only way you can get justice is if you take it into your own hands, you're going to get instances like that where, you know, genuine people are in danger of mob justice, whether you think it's deserved or not. That's not the way we do things. This is why we live in a civilized society. That's not how we do things.
Well, and this was like the rugby trial. I'm looking at this opinion piece. This was a 9-week trial, 11-person jury, 3 men, or 3 women, 8 men.
Yeah.
So there were 3 women on the jury. Verdict was unanimous.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are. You know, these people are protesting.
Not that the gender of the jury should matter.
No, but I mean, if you got 3 women on the jury and the 3 women agree with the men, this is not men letting off another guy for sexual misconduct. Clearly, if 3 women are also believing or not believing the accusers, then there was something. Because, you know, we already know women have an in-group bias. We already know that women have a particular aversion to stories like this, where they're more likely to think of a man as automatically guilty by accusation. So if they're looking at other women's stories and saying, you know, this doesn't all add up, there's definitely something there that deserves to be questioned.
You know what really happened, though, Hannah? What really happened was, while the jury was all meeting and trying to decide, like, whether to convict, you know, to declare these guys guilty or innocent, the 8 men threatened the 3 women to that they would rape them if they didn't agree with their verdict. And of course, women they don't have any agency, so they said, okay, I don't want to get raped. And that's why those guys got off free, because all men collude. Because since all men are rapists, they also help other rapists out, which is each other, and they collude to keep them, you know, out of the prison system. So yeah, that's probably what really happened.
Okay. I've been sitting here thinking of a bit that would respond to "my black dress doesn't mean yes," and then I don't know if anyone in their right mind, anyone in their right sort of unspurgy mind would have left this in the realm of, oh well, missed the boat. That moment lasted a couple of seconds and it was all over many minutes ago. This is literally autism, Mike. Fuck you. This is how bits happen. Black dresses don't mean yes. It's a white dress that means yes. Surely. A pink, white, fluffy dress like a blancmange is a traditional way of saying, yes, this one dude in this penguin suit I have declared fit for docking his penguin cock in my souffle. So a black dress is something that barely wraps you up like a roasting game bird. That is indeed your way of saying, no, don't fuck me. You will regret it.
Yeah.
One way or another.
Besides, funerals.
Then again, that in the long term is also what the white dress means.
True.
Maybe we need a system, a strict female wardrobe system of red dresses and white dresses and blue pantsuits. Oh shit! I just created The Handmaid's Tale.
You really have to watch out for the pantsuits, though. They might have a seizure and fall on you.
God. All right, moving on to the next story.
No, not God, just Hillary. She thinks she's God.
All right, so this is kind of an interesting one. A large women's issues advocacy group in China was kicked off the Chinese version of Twitter, which is called Weibo. Feminist Voices was founded in 2009 and had operated the social media platform since 2010. Author of Betraying Big Brother, The Feminist Awakening in China, Lita Hong Fincher believes, quote, the government sees this group of young feminists as a threat to communist rule. Let that sink in for a second. The government of China finds feminism threatening to communism.
Feminism is communism.
No, apparently it's worse.
No, it isn't. It is a threat to communism because at least communism has it the right way around. The workers are underneath the proletariat technically is underneath the bourgeoisie in those terms. But feminism is a threat to communism because it flips that whole system on its head and says women are the proletariat and men are the bourgeoisie. So absolutely, it is a threat to communism. It will do what it's doing now to Europe and the West.
It's that much cancer. All right. The Me Too movement had reached China, catalyzed by a former doctoral student sharing a letter on Weibo about being sexually harassed by her former professor. It gained momentum, leading Weibo to block hashtag #MeToo, which was then replaced using a rice and bunny emoticon. As cited by Wired.com, quote, when spoken aloud, the words for rice bunny are pronounced me too, a homophone that clearly evades detection. Very clever Chinese feminists. Feminist level Asian, apparently. Of course, feminists aren't the only one being censored on Chinese social media and finding clever ways to get around it. When grass mud horse is translated, the name sounds nearly the same as fuck your mother. Kao Ni Ma. Because the Communist Party is often described as the mother of the people, it is a way of saying fuck the party. See, it's not Freudian. It's also
band name. I know I say this every 2 weeks, but that's my band name now. Grass Mod Horse. I mean, there's no. This is just like when they translated Coca-Cola into Chinese and got Bite the Wax Tadpole. And every pretentious indie band for 10 years wanted to call themselves Bite the Wax Tadpole. That's Grass Mud Horse. That's almost as good.
For the record,
Go ahead, Max. Go ahead.
For the record, my band name is Welcome to Bangkok, because in Icelandic, that means go fuck your mother, I believe.
Hey. It's interesting that there's some bit of similarity there.
Yeah, like I think I got that right. Like I remember, the singer Bjork. She
is the only thing that Iceland has, so yes.
Besides a whole lot of ice on their land. Yeah. Bjork, she dropped off at at an airport during a tour or something, and a reporter went up to her and she's like, welcome to Bangkok, I think. And apparently that means something along the lines of fuck your mother in Icelandic when you pronounce it that way. So and then she went into a rage.
It's just like that scene in Hitchhikers, isn't it?
Wow.
Scene in Hitchhikers Guide to the Galaxy where these two intergalactic warlords are having a meetup, and suddenly these words appear from an interdimensional wormhole that happen to translate the English words that happen to translate into the alien words, saying something very stupid about your mother, and then they went to war on Earth and got eaten by a small dog. So I butchered that completely, but that's the idea.
It was pretty close. It depends. Was that actually in the radio show? Because I didn't get to actually see. I never have gotten to hear the whole radio show.
It was in the TV show.
It was in the TV show. Okay,
Which,
I know it was in the books.
Which has no more hipster points than the book, by the way.
Yeah.
Trying to score some hipster points.
Yeah, the first thing I ever encountered was the book because that was what was readily available here in Ohio. So.
Wow, I out hipster you. I have the radio show.
Yeah, it was. I got to see part of the television show, and I've gotten to hear part of the radio broadcast, but I've never got to sit down and listen to the whole thing. I feel deprived.
Also, going back to the article, I just wanted to point out that it is not at all surprising, but very interesting that the Communist Party in China is often described as the mother of the people, not the father of the people. Not surprising, but interesting. All right, moving on. So,
I was gonna say, but everybody thinks China hates women.
Well, yeah, of course they do.
Girl babies. That's where they kill all the girl babies, isn't it?
Yes, they do. Yes,
because they're not obligated to take care of their parents in their old age, but the boys are.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, because women make more babies. They're too powerful. They would annihilate the world sexually, in the words of Tariq Nasheed. Okay, so moving on. Also,
annihilating the world sexually is my job, Tariq.
Well, you do have the correct. You have melanin of some kind. All right, so over the last few years,
anything's a dildo if you're brave enough.
Over
even
the last
a giant
years,
sphere.
Yes. Also,
you said it, not me.
Over the last few years, internet users in China have been using Winnie the Pooh memes to criticize President Xi Jinping after images appeared online comparing the leader's portly figure to Pooh. References to the character were blocked on social media. I can totally see why. These are the edgiest memes in China, apparently. Winnie the Pooh and Xi Jinping. The Wired article also talks about nationalist trolls, known as the 50 Cent Army. The term 50 Cent Army originally referred to the government paying menial wage to spread propaganda online. But now anyone online who supports the government, Xiao Mei Li, a prominent women's rights activist, says she's seen an increase in anti-feminist harassment online from 50 centers in the club since the Feminist Voices account was deleted earlier this month.
Your birthday.
Finally, proof that feminist activists are cringe worldwide. Last year, when Weibo suspended Feminist Voices, this time for a month, for posting inappropriate content, images appeared online of a group of masked women holding a symbolic funeral for the death of Feminist Voices, showing us once again that feminism looks crazy no matter what part of the world you're in.
But the point of a funeral is to remember something. If you're symbolizing the death of feminism by symbolizing a remembrance ceremony. Oh God, I can't even. I've lost the ability to can.
I got some super chats I've been neglecting for a little while, so I apologize, guys. I'm going to go ahead and read through them really quick, but then I'm going to let you guys comment on this crazy story of Chinese feminists. I'm sorry, there is no country safe. Not even communist countries want feminism. I'm just going to say that again. I want you to think about it. Joey Jojo gives us $5 and says, I saw Ready Player One yesterday with a woman who is pretty left-leaning. Me and her enjoyed it quite a bit. We made out through most of it, though. See, Honey Badger Radio is good for men. Joey Jojo saw some action the other day. You guys give him a high five. Everybody give Joey Jojo high fives. I don't know how you do it online. Maybe there's like a hand emoji or something, but give him high fives for his accomplishments. All right.
Was it a waifu, Joey?
Was it? Yeah.
Was
no.
it a waifu?
I think it was a real girl.
He'll appreciate that joke. He'll appreciate that.
He'll appreciate that joke. Okay. Self-sealing stem bolt gives us €5 and says Kevin pour la victoire. This is all in French or some shit. Maybe Max can read it. Can you see the super chats? No, probably not. Kevin, let me do this. I'm gonna go ahead and copy it, and I'm gonna send it to Max as a message, and then maybe you can read it, my friend, my dude. Oh, is he gone? Oh, he is gone. So I guess I got to do this on my own. Kevin,
read it.
Yeah, go ahead. Do it.
Oh wait,
it's in the chat.
Oh God, I offered my services before I knew what I was doing.
I mean, I put it in our chat, like our little 4-person thing. Do you see it?
La Victoria. Is that all I'm reading?
Yeah.
All right. Kevin pour la victoire, la crème brûlée et la terrible nourriture anglaise. I think that means.
I think he translates it. Yeah.
Kevin for the victory, the crème brûlée, and the terrible English food.
Okay. Thank you, self-sealing stem belt. Joey Jojo gives us $2 and says, "This is why enthusiastic consent is a thing," which with regards to the false rape allegation stuff that we were just talking about. Darren Hightower III, I hope that's his real name, gives us $2 Canadian. I almost said Californian, but they're still part of our country. So, and doesn't say anything. So thank you for that. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe it was intended to just be a straight up donation. Hokibu Kisa gives us $2 and says China hates non-party members. Koran Strong gives us €2 and says your real communism TM is in another castle. And Zeranx gives us $5 and says, I think feminism is the one thing the West needs to apologize for. Agreed. I agree.
Absolutely agreed.
Yes.
It was a Frenchman, by the way. It was a Frenchman. But we took it and ran. No one is. I am not innocent. You are not innocent.
No. We let it run rampant and do the damage that it has done. So
I'm innocent. I want to talk to my lawyer first. You can't pin anything on me.
All right. So
you can call me anything, sir, but you will not call me a Frenchman.
I think we got 2 more stories to get through. So let's go ahead and get to the next one. Thank you guys for all your donations. Oh, unless either Hannah or Mike want to say something about the Chinese thing.
Something.
Okay.
He said what I was going to say, so.
Oh, all right. Well, I guess that's it then.
All the bases
like
are
that,
covered.
we're like that. I'm doing my fingers. I'm doing a finger
There
thing.
you go.
Like that. That's what we like. That thing I'm doing with my fingers is what we like.
Now you all have to use your imaginations.
Now comes something that I think will bring the rage. This story, I just couldn't believe this fucking thing existed. Okay. 7th grader suspended for drawing a stick figure with a gun. In North Carolina, Roseboro Salemburg Middle School suspended a 7th grader for drawing a stick figure holding a gun, as well as another stick figure holding 2 knives. The father told WARAL that his son had made the drawings before the Parkland High School shooting in Florida, because he had to explain that for some reason, like that mattered. But he had to, because if your kid's drawing knives and guns, and there was just a shooting, he's clearly not sensitive to current events. How old was this boy again? We're going to get to that, I think. The boy's father also says that the boy does not have access to the weapons that are used for hunting. Those would be guns. But his son wasn't suffering any emotional troubles when the drawings were made, because we have to explain that shit.
Because he does have access. But
he
here's
does.
the thing.
Yes.
Yeah, my brother, I used to color my brother's comics. He used to draw comics when I was a kid, and I did the coloring. And he had one called Gang Wars. I mean, he drew pictures of guys killing each other with knives and guns, and some of the drawings were made at school and some of the drawings were made at home. And my brother was like the most patient, non-violent guy. Like, he got in fights like other guys did, and they would play fight like other guys. All the guys in the neighborhood used to fight for fun, but nobody would have considered bringing a gun to school and shooting the other kids. Nobody was going to try to kill anybody. This is pretty normal. Boys do this. Boys draw guys with weapons. This drives me nuts. This isn't something that indicates that somebody is violent in any way, shape, or form. It isn't something that indicates that somebody is malicious in any way, shape, or form. Jeez. And this is like one of numerous stories like this. And it is pretty typical for guys to boys draw soldiers with guns, boys draw hunters with guns, boys draw cowboys with guns. It's so stupid. Sorry.
No, I used to do that too. I used to take like an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Like, if I can get my hands on like a printer sheet, it was like heaven. But normally it would be like notebook paper because, but it wasn't as easy to get your hands on like what we used to call ditto paper back then. It was just the white paper for making dittos, like the printed sheets.
Yeah, see, we were spoiled because we had an actual copy machine at our house.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had paper for that, and we had computers from the time I was a little kid, and we had paper for that. So we had reams of printer paper.
Oh. No, I didn't have access to that in the hood, but what I would do is I would take this 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. I would draw a line down the middle, and I would put a war. I would draw like an entire war going on, like between two armies, and they'd have tanks and like mounted laser turret cannons, and they would be cutting guys in half. They'd have all kinds of guns, and they'd hire ninja teams. And I'd just draw it would look like a stickman version of those. You ever seen those giant Japanese prints of like humongous samurai battles? And there's like, you can like find, all this shit going on in them. It was like that, but with stick figures, and they were using science fiction weapons and medieval weapons and, crazy, it was just crazy action packed, right? Like, just filled with as much crap as I could put in it. And I'd probably be in prison today if I did that, like, these days, because this is nothing. And this kid, these are solid, but like my stick figures were like dynamic, and they had elbows and knees and hands and everything. Like, I went crazy with it. So I got to step up your stickman game,
conversely,
my dude.
Yeah, the girl that bullied me the most before I was in high school anyway, used to draw pictures of rainbows and unicorns and fluffy bunnies and shit like that. So obviously there's not necessarily a connection between what people draw and what they are going to do.
No, there is not. All right, so I'm going to go back to the story.
Look,
Mike?
What is... Okay. What is, to the best of our historical knowledge, what is the first thing humans ever drew? Like with paint or with powdery ochre, like rocks or whatever. What was the?
They were like the cave paintings were
to imitate life with art. Yeah, some kind of horse, animal thing getting hunted by a human. A picture of a human killing an enemy with the weapons available to him in that time period. That's considered worth recording. In fact, it was considered worth inventing the process of recording, because it's a brilliant idea we had that helped us evolve the brains we have now, the vitamin B12. Yeah, we'll get into that. And this is, this story, like on Honey Badger Radio a lot, and on my channel a lot. What we all have in common, apart from the men's rights thing, is we're all artists. And a lot of us got into this because we're pissed off about what's happening to art these days. They're taking what fundamentally makes art beautiful and saying you can't do that because it's not socially acceptable. And they literally can't take it any further back than this. They literally can't.
No.
They've taken it all the way back to the beginning. If these people saw little Johnny, little thug.
Ugh. Yeah.
Fucking painting a picture of on a wall of a guy with a club. These are the people who'd be like, "Oh my God, you've created murder. This image is violence." You know?
Absolutely. All right, going back to the PowerPoint. So the father. So this boy does have a father. Thank fucking God. The father told WARAL, quote, "I see him holding his gun. He's a deer hunter. I see him with a magician, and I see him as a Ninja Turtle, just expressing himself. Nothing violent. When I see that, I see a normal 13-year-old boy. I drew pictures like this. Any other person of his age drew drawings like this. It's nothing to get expelled from school for." In a statement to WRAL, Superintendent Eric Bracey says, quote, "Due to everything happening in the nation, we're just being extra vigilant about all issues of safety. There are some things that list possible threats or things like that. We've got category 1, 2, 3, and 4, which sort of grades potential incidents and the level of seriousness." Bracey said about the punishments outlined in the handbook. Herring said his son's drawings were made before the Parkland shooting, which is what I mentioned, that killed 17 people. Still, a boy was suspended from school for drawing stickmen that happened to be holding guns. And they're clearly not knives, they're swords. I mean, I think it's supposed to be a sword, but yeah, that's what happened. That's where we are right now.
Well, and this has been going on for a long time, because I remember writing about this when I was writing for Gather.com back before it tanked. And this is the problem of, what do they call it? Zero tolerance policies. Problem with zero tolerance policies is in treating non-threats the same as threats, and in treating ordinary behavior, pathologizing ordinary behavior and treating it as though it is extraordinary and malicious. What they do, in addition to damaging the education potential of the students that they're railroading with this shit, they are also making it more difficult to detect the actual instances where somebody's behavior can overtly indicate that something like Parkland is coming. And what's basically a result of this is, since everything is taken seriously, nothing can be taken more seriously than anything else. And so everything gets treated with this, well, you're suspended and we're not going to do any further investigation response. And then when something like Parkland happens, after the fact, they're going back and examining it. Well, this boy was suspended 27 times for behavior that was obviously dangerous and indicative of something more serious than just getting into fights with other kids. Why was nothing done? Well, they suspended him 27 times. Wasn't that enough? Obviously not enough. No. And because they're doing the same thing, when you have a boy who does nothing but draw pictures that boys normally draw, they really can't differentiate. They can't deal with the other boy, the boy that has an actual problem, or the girl that has an actual problem, any more harshly. Because if they deal with the student any more harshly, by the nature of their zero tolerance policies, they then have to visit that same punishment on a kid that's just drawing pictures. It becomes a vicious cycle. We can't do anything about real danger because we're too busy chasing, our shadows.
Yeah. Of course, they believe, as Mike was pointing out, there's clearly something wrong with boys. Like, if they like drawing action and adventure and that kind of thing, they interpret it as violence and disturbed behavior. It's like, you ever seen those horror movies? There's lots of them. Like, they do this a lot. It's kind of a trope. They have a horror movie and there's a little child in the center, and the child is being exposed to this supernatural evil, and maybe it possesses them or influences them or it speaks to them in some way. And so they, like, the way that the mother gets clues about this possession or this evil that this kid, her child usually, is carrying around is he draws these like terrifying drawings, and like the teacher's bringing them out. He's like, yeah, your child draws unusual artwork. Have you seen this? And you see like these, you know, pictures of demons and like deep holes and dark eyes and murdered families and all this other stuff. And that sort of like, you know, increases the tension. I think that these people think that that shit is real. And they think that it's only with boys, because that's often how they do it. It's usually a boy that's doing that. And they have to be, it's like they make art, and then that art eventually becomes reality. It's like a prediction of things to come, as opposed to an observation of the world around them, which is usually what it is. You know, they're interpreting things. Like French Honey Badger gave us $2 and says he drew Leonardo from the Ninja Turtles. The horror. Yes, he drew basically a Ninja Turtle. And now we think that that means he wants to go out and mass stab people while wearing a mask.
Yeah, he's probably a white supremacist because he likes ninjas who are amphibians.
Yeah, either that or the guy next to him. I think Ninja Turtles are actually reptiles, but the guy next to him is a wizard, but he could be holding a tiki torch. That could be what that is.
Did you just say ninjas are reptiles?
No, I meant to say
ninjas are reptiles. Ninjas are not reptiles, Brian. That's offensive. The police are coming for
turtles.
You.
Turtles are reptiles.
It's off to jail with you.
Turtles are reptiles.
No, you're right. Turtles are reptiles. Ninja Turtles. The science isn't in.
No, we're not. We have to conduct more tests. So, anyway, because I know that the chat's going to correct you on that, so I tried to get in there, but I stumbled over my words. But yeah, it seems like this is just another story of toxic masculinity. It almost always uniquely affects boys, whether you're eating a Pop-Tart, you're making drawings, you're playing Lord of the Rings with friends, or whatever it is. You know, you're the one that they're going to target and come after.
See, the thing is, it should be okay to play Lord of the Rings at school. As long as you're not playing Lord of the Flies, it's all good.
Yeah, but if you're just playing...
Well, no, because remember, they were naked.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so let me go ahead and read the super chats real quick, because I got a couple here. Destron1201 gave us $4.99 and says, Family Guy made the argument for the Second Amendment years ago, right after they got rid of guns. Tentacle Stewies appear and wreck the place. French Honey Badger gave us $2 and says she drew Leonardo from the Ninja Turtles, The Horror, which I already read. And Lise Maxwell gave us £2 and says, fancy shooting down a kid's art like a YouTube office. Oh, what? So yeah, that's interesting that he drew these guns, and then YouTube gets shut up. I wonder if this kid is connected. That's probably what it is. This kid, this 13-year-old boy, is connected to the shooting that happened to YouTube. And
I think we need a triple parentheses in here somewhere, don't we?
Yeah, I think so. And Xeranx gives us $10 and says, I keep thinking Demolition Man in circumstances like this. People don't realize or refuse to realize that they're attempting to draw out the monsters, so to speak. Yes, the Demolition Man thing comes up a lot. I try to tell people how important this film is, and they keep telling me it's crap.
It's so bizarre that it's the only movie that portrays the future as that. Well, I suppose 1984 is kind of similar, but so almost all of the dystopian nightmare futures are of this robot world where it's anarchy, where there's no rules anymore. But yeah, look at the trajectory, guys. It's far more likely that the Demolition Man future is going to be the thing.
Yeah, too many rules. Quran Strong gives us $5 and says the founding cavemen never intended for people to have more than sticks and stones. I get it. Okay. So, yeah, Brave New World, Mike, 1984. There's also a Simpsons episode, I remember. It might have been from the Treehouse of Horror, but I'm not sure, where Ned Flanders takes over the world, and that becomes, he does like a 1984 thing where he makes everyone wear his outfit, and they have to wear smiles all the time, and they get lobotomized.
I suppose these kinds of systems are predictable, but they're also, their downfall can be predicted as well. They don't last very long. Whereas the robot apocalypse quite possibly will last a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was called the Re-Neducation. Re-Neducation, get it? So, I won't explain the joke, but I think you understand. It's a good one. All right. So anyway, we'll move on to the next story unless anybody else has any other thoughts on this one.
I have no thoughts.
Okay. Good. You should tell your thoughts to be gone.
You don't need thoughts in your life.
No. Tell them to be gone. All right. Feminist takes the purple pill. In an article for the Daily Mail's female section, it's you know what I mean. Michelle.
They don't spell it the Daily Mail. They don't spell it M-A-L-E. It's not like
Michelle Kennedy blogs about her worries about her son's future in a world rapidly becoming female-centric. Rapidly becoming? She begins by articulating her initial longing to raise her son like a good feminist, but reveals the gender stereotypes she was holding on to. She writes, while girls need to be told the importance of being independent, becoming educated, earning her own money, and not relying on anyone, males will grow up to be strong and independent, self-sufficient and confident, no matter what messages they receive in childhood.
Who told this woman that reprehensible lie? Are you serious? No matter what they're told, no matter what messages they receive in childhood, boys are oblivious. No, wait a minute. While she's saying that boys are oblivious to the messages they receive in childhood, and those messages then have no influence on the person they turn out to be.
She insists that you give them those messages anyway.
Yeah, does she believe in things like the teach men not to rape initiative and stuff like that? That idea that boys and men don't understand consent and refusal and will accidentally rape someone if you don't teach them that no means no, because that would kind of contradict the idea that they will grow up to be what boys are intended to be or what they're supposed to be, no matter what messages they receive in childhood. Like, that's almost dumber than her having decided that something is new just because she happened to notice it now.
Well, it gets better. So we'll get into it. It gets even better than this. Okay. Later in the article, she is ashamed to admit that while she is happy to hear about strong women in society these days, she, quote, somehow feels disconcerted to hear someone discuss a strong man, because if I'm honest, when hearing the words strong man, I subconsciously think of negative connotations, things like misogyny or bullying. But when I hear the words strong woman, I think of victory over oppression.
Gee, it's almost like feminism really is about hating men.
Maybe. It's funny how
interesting that she went. It's interesting that I've sort of know where I am now. But whoever just said this as I mean, a concession that we should appreciate, folks, because then there are negative connotations with strong masculinity, like bullying. And let's remember that bullying is something we accuse children of. It's like I said last week, it's the kid word we have for abuse, because children don't understand what abuse is. We call it this kid word, bullying. But while there's people saying you can't call a little girl bossy, it's misogynistic to call a little girl bossy when she's being a bad leader. But in the meantime, anything a boy does wrong is bullying. And that's, as we just went over, means abuse. Like, any time a boy is too confident, perhaps, or like stands his ground when it comes to an argument with perhaps a girl, it's abusive for him to even do that. Sorry, not abusive, just bullying. It's just bullying, folks. And I fucking say it's a kid word. And it used to be a kid word. Bullying used to be a distinct thing from abuse, as in.
Yeah.
But I worked in the Royal Mail for a long time, and they have a bullying policy.
Oh, they do.
And they call it a bullying policy. And it's not just them. It's I would imagine it's all other kinds of government institutions have followed suit, and probably private ones as well. They don't call it abuse anymore. They say, if you are being bullied, please report it to HR or whatever, and everything's subjective from that point on. No one ever says, has someone been bossy to you? Report it to HR, you know? Because bossy is considered too feminine to some people, and bullying is considered too masculine. All right, if we're going to get rid of one of these, can we get rid of the other?
Self-stealing Stembolt gives us €5 and says, why such a strong interest in the world of female bodybuilding? Leave strong women alone. It's a joke. All right, moving on. Kennedy says she is still passionately believes that after years of discrimination, women deserve a chance to shine. But that I might have swung too far the other way. That, quote, in empowering girls, we're also disempowering our boys. She illustrates this with another unnerved mother who found an Instagram photo with a mother posing with her daughter and son. The smiling mother and daughter wearing t-shirts that declare, the future is female. Meanwhile, her son looks decidedly lost and perplexed, perhaps uneasy at the thought of a future where he is seemingly obsolete. It's funny, she has a son, and this is the thing, the reason why I'm bringing this up. She has a son, and all of a sudden, her feminist values are starting to lose their luster. You know, like she's starting to question her ideology, but she can't let go, which is really interesting. Like she's determined not to let go of it, but she is starting to wonder what it's going to be like for her son. And one of the things that's really telling about this too is that she says we're in danger of swinging too far the other way. In empowering girls, we are also disempowering our boys. She's treating it like a zero-sum game. Like, you can do both of these things if you put it in perspective to see, where the priorities are. I don't think that giving boys more attention takes attention away from girls. And I don't think the reverse. I just think that if you ignore one side and you only focus on the other, that's how you take away from one. But you can give attention to both of these things. Am I crazy for that?
No, yeah. That makes sense. Go on.
No, and I was going to say, this is something that there seems to be 2 or 3 different sort of schools of response in feminists who have boys. You have the really toxic feminists who drive their boys to near suicide or to other dysfunction by treating them as defective children because they're not girls. And then you have feminists that think that they can raise their boys with feminist ideals and specifically their feminist ideals, and you have no harm done whatsoever. And then you have the school of feminists that start to question their feminist ideals because they see the impact of feminist thought in the world on boys. And that one further divides into feminists that try to reconcile their adherence to the movement with this discrepancy between what the movement says and what they see in their boys. And then you have women who become anti-feminists because they recognize the stupidity of their movement when they start raising a boy. And a lot of times the journey from being the feminist who, thinks that she can raise her boy with feminist ideals without damaging him at all, to the feminist who becomes an anti-feminist, crosses over that point where they think, well, feminism isn't bad altogether, but it can be bad for boys, and I have to figure out how to make my feminism not bad for my boy.
Right.
And then they figure out there's no way to do that, and they become more anti-feminist. And it seems to be a very painful journey for them. I mean, it would be like being a devout practitioner of a religion and then finding out that your entire religion was written by some guy as a science fiction book, and people just believed it, and waking up from that and having to deal with the idea that everything you know is wrong. And that's basically the way they react to it. They take to it, like a cat to a bathtub full of water. And it takes quite a bit for them to get to that point where they can reject the man-hating aspects of feminism, which is pretty much the entire ideology.
If they're willing to do the work to find that it is the entire ideology, or at least at the core, like the core pillars that hold it up are based on misandry. Like they have to. Like it's not feminism without those core beliefs. And it is something that I think it's like losing your religion for feminists. It's really, really, really hard for them to let go of, especially if they've done it for a long time. I mean, kudos to the ones that do, like Cassie J, for example, or Classy Bay, as I like to call her. But it reminds me of something else that happened recently. Jonathan Pye, you know who that is, right? He's an English comedian guy, and he did the goose steps in front of the courthouse where Count Dankula was convicted. You might know.
Pye is legend. He's fucked up very few times. Every comedian fucks up, but especially considering he's a bit of a pinko liberal, he's done a very good job of yelling at them to do shit wrong.
Yes.
And he did it again.
Yes, he did. Well, he made a video, I think it might be more recent than the Dankula one, where he sits down to interview a feminist. Have you seen that sketch? And
no, I haven't.
Oh, they did. Yeah, we shared it in the Discord because I thought it would be an interesting one to do, either Raging or perhaps what's the other thing? Rand Zerkaron or something. Because what he does, I'm going to try and sum it up quickly, is that he brings a feminist on to do an interview, and he's going into it as the interviewee under the assumption that he's going to sit down with her and bring up all the usual feminist talking points, pay gap stuff, rape culture stuff, and so on. But when he does, and talk about her new book, which might be a real book. I'm not sure if this is a real feminist. I didn't look into it. So the woman sits down and they're talking. I think she actually is a real person, though, not like a character. And he brings up the usual stuff, but when he does, she debunks his feminist myth and tells the truth about it. So she talks about the wage gap, she debunks it. I think she debunks rape culture and maybe like a couple of other things. And she does it, which surprises him. Like he's like, I didn't know that was true or whatever. However, he says, "You are a feminist, right?" She says, "Absolutely, and I'm tired of these lies being spread around, and I'm gonna break these myths wide open for everyone to see because I'm a real feminist." And when I watched that video, the only thing I could think about is, it seems to me that in this example, this woman either knew this stuff and wanted to fight it from the beginning, or what I believe is more likely, all of that shit was shattered, so she could not escape the truth of these myths and had to come to terms with it. However, more importantly, she did not want to let go of the feminist label. And so she said, I'm the real feminist. Those are all those other ones online making all these videos for giant mega corporations and raising billions of dollars to try to fight the wage gap and going and politically lobbying under all of this bullshit, and people who are president and prime minister that have repeated all this bullshit. None of those people are real feminists. I'm the real one. I am. I'm the only one. I'm the real one because I know what the myths are. But I'm here to save the label, which is more important than anything else. And I think that's that is almost, in some cases, or many cases, the best case scenario outcome for someone who has become kind of come in contact with these facts, that does not want to let go of the label. And I think that's what this woman is. She is so purple pilled because she loves her son, I think, and wants the best for him, but she cannot stop being a feminist. She just can't. She has to believe that it's worth something. She has to believe that it matters and that it's valuable. And I think in that Jonathan Pye thing, you can watch it and let me know if I'm wrong, but I think that woman's trying to save the label. And she's not concerned with telling the truth. She is more concerned with saving feminism as a concept. And she has not come to the realization that you can't, because of what is built on, because of the fundamental principles that make it what it is. Right?
Well, now, you won't be surprised, no one will be surprised to hear me assert that among men's rights advocates, there's a disproportionate amount of people who have male children, especially only male children, and there's a disproportionate amount of feminists or feminist sympathetic folks who have female children, especially only females. Not all, hashtag many exceptions, blah blah blah. But yes, people do go into things because of personal interests. Why wouldn't they? But people also go into things because of principles. I think my point is it changes nothing when it comes to the principles, and it's sort of very easy to dismiss people for it basically ad hominem and things like that, and it is ad hominem. I know it seems like a very powerful point of the argument, you know, the gender of the children a person has, and it is. How could it not alter your perspective if you have children of only one gender?
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't affect the arguments they're coming up with at all. Well, it will,
No.
but at least you can't make that argument because it is just ad hominem. It's like saying you only think that way because of what your parents told you. It could be true, but it's still ad hominem. You have to engage the arguments themselves.
Yep. Right? All right. Hannah, did you want to say something? Nope. Hannah, you still there? Are you muted or something?
Yeah, sorry, I've been double muting because I don't want to record my allergies.
Oh, okay. Michael
Like,
edit them out.
Yeah. No, yeah, I know, but he doesn't need to listen to me imitating Snuffleupagus for the entire show. just the first like half hour when I didn't do it. So
Put it through a couple of flanges and a couple of make some bizarre alien noises with it.
yeah, flange actually sounds like what I've got going down the back of my throat.
I don't know why it's called a flanger. It's apparently a part of roofing. It's like one of the vertical beams that you put in a roof, and it's also a verb that means a guitar effect.
Yeah.
That delays a guitar by literally just one frame, if you like. One literally just moves it one sort of pixel to the right. That's what a flanger is. It's not like a delay, because delays it by like a second, so you hear it the same thing again a second later. A flanger is where you hear the same thing again like a microsecond later. That's why it sounds like the same thing, but with a little bit of a...
Yeah.
It's actually fascinating mathematically why it does that. But, oh God, I've spurged. Sorry.
It's okay. Hannah?
Yeah, that was basically it. I've been double muted, so
okay.
I didn't want to like snot on everybody. It just
Thanks.
apparently we're having spring today in Ohio, in all kinds of it's like absolutely having a seizure. Mother Nature is just having a weather seizure, and it kicked up all of the mold and all of the tree pollen because the trees are all turned on now because it got warm out. So I can't breathe.
It's because of Punish a Muslim Day. God is punishing
Muslims
in Ohio.
I'm not Muslim, and I'm the one that's punished.
God moves in mysterious ways. It's my birthday today, by the way. I swear it's a complete coincidence. It's a complete coincidence that today is Punish a Muslim Day.
Happy birthday, Mike. I didn't know that.
Happy birthday.
I swear that they didn't make today Punish a Muslim Day because it's my birthday. They wouldn't do that. That's
everyone in the chat is saying happy birthday. So.
I'm betting there's not a single incident.
Also, Jeff Holiday's birthday, which I learned from Skype today. It's what I don't like about Skype. It just lets people know when your birthday is. Oh, hi, it's this person's birthday. Yeah, I don't want people to know that. Although I did just broadcast it to. Yeah, it's worth it for the anecdote.
All right.
My birthday's Punish a Muslim Day. I think that's funny. I think I've done enough disclaimers to be able to conclude that despite everything,
I don't think it's too soon to joke about that. All right, so some super chats, and then I'll continue with the rest of this article. Darth Elwin gives us $5 and says, "Thank you, Doc. Bullying equals abuse. Using the word is a way of pushing the problem underneath the rug and not addressing it." Mustard gives us $2 and says, "Mike, when will you release the newer songs for download?" I guess we should probably answer that question.
When I've finished the album, I've finished composing the album. I know what songs are going to be on it, and 5 of them haven't been recorded yet. 3 of them haven't even been written yet. I haven't done many videos recently because I've been sitting here beavering away on the album, trying to figure out how to. Have you ever made a mixtape?
Yeah, when I was 17.
Yeah, that's composing an album.
Oh,
it's different. It's very different from composing a song. But I'm going to compose this album while composing the songs at the same time, which I've never done before. Until now, it's just been you record a song and then you slap them together in whatever order you think is best. But I'm going to make this up. I'm going to so the key at the end of one song is the same key at the beginning of the next song, and so or the relative minor of whatever major it is, and it's going to sort of progress like that. I've sparked again, Brian. Don't make me
interesting. Well, I was just gonna ask, and I know this is totally on a tangent, but you normally do covers of older songs, and
I'm doing 50s now. Yeah,
you're doing the 50s. Okay.
Yeah, my next one will be a cover of Witch Doctor. You know the song Witch Doctor?
Yes. Hoo-ee, ooh-ah-ah. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Ching, chang, gotta, bing, bang.
I've tried to interpret that as actual words, and I'm not allowed to repeat myself. This is the thing with 50 songs. They find one hook and then repeat it over and over and over and over again. And it's my job to reinterpret the lyrics without ever repeating myself. And I've done it with Witch Doctor. It was quite a project.
I think I just put the Witch Doctor song in somebody's head because they're telling me that they hate me. They're like, don't.
Yeah, I called it Dick Lobster. I called the Dick Lobster. He told me, clean your room. Oh, that's all I'm getting. That's all I'm getting.
All right, that's it. We'll wait for the song to come out. All right, French Honey Badger gives us $5 and says, the boy is obsolete, not discriminated or put down. Obsolete, as if he is a machine. Remember that Twilight Zone? Obsolete. Hoki Bukisa gives us $5 and says, even she knows instinctively to teach her son stoicism. Big boys don't cry. Her anima wants grandchildren. Yes. It's like she knows the reality, but she doesn't have the tools. Zeranx gives us $10 and says, it really bothers me how many women write articles or make videos about how they were jolted from their feminist thinking only because they had sons. It's like they can't imagine caring for males. Yes, that annoys the shit out of me too. That was one of my first thoughts was, you are totally fine with your belief system until you realized that your son was going to have to get put through that system. And now you're starting to rethink it. And even then, she can't let go of it completely, which I'll get into. Zurex gives us $5 again and says, even as a teenager, myself and friends had ideas about what we'd do if we had daughters. Yeah, because men care about their kids. And that, I mean, I think we think about that all the time. How would we raise them differently? And I'm not saying that women don't. I think that it's not a women thing so much as a feminist thing. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. All right, so moving on to the story as you were. I'm just trying to see where I left off. I don't want to miss it. Two swinging far the other way. Okay, yeah, here we are. Although Kennedy believes that her feminism is about true equality, who wants her son to accomplish whatever he wants, not because of his gender, but because of his self-worth, she fails to recognize that the same premise she holds onto, that women have been oppressed and held back by men in the past, is the cause of the problem. She writes of her childhood, of being told she could be a doctor, lawyer, or accountant, and being a fan of a single female lawyer, I mean Ally McBeal, and her father, an electrician, who would leave for work at 4:30 a.m. She recites that her gender held her back when she started working as a lawyer for a technology firm. She was frequently talked over and, quote, in one tax structuring meeting, she was asked to fetch the sugar, yes, really, where I was often the only woman in the room. Perhaps she should ask her father if he was ever picked on as an apprentice electrician. So, I just had to comment on that. This woman still believes that women are poorly put upon, even though she, by her own hard work and effort, became a lawyer and a CEO, and her father, who she had, was an electrician that had to get up at 4:30 in the morning every day. But he was the one with privilege. And she fails to see this still. This is what I'm talking about. This is completely insane. By the way, yeah, she's legitimately a fan of the Ally McBeal show because it was about a young female lawyer or something. I don't know.
Well, and she's written here that women have been oppressed and held back by men, but then she turns around and writes of being told she could be a doctor, lawyer, and accountant.
Yeah, she could do it
I'm
all.
sitting here thinking,
but they're being held back.
But they're being held back. And this is something that I've noticed with feminism. The fact that women had opportunities and the fact that women were able to make the choice to do certain things in their lives, they could be doctors, they could be lawyers, they could be anything they wanted to be, or they could choose if they wanted to get married and depend on a man to take care of them and depend on his income and place their responsibility for their welfare in his hands rather than in their own. That's somehow oppression, whereas men who did not have that choice, men had the responsibility from early on, before they were men, from being boys, they had responsibility towards the girls and women in their families and the girls and women in their communities, and they knew that from childhood that their career wasn't just about them and their enjoyment of their career and their prestige and all of that. It was also about how are you going to support your family? How are you going to be responsible for your wife and children? And yet it's women who are oppressed, and men, by taking on all of this responsibility, we're somehow keeping them down. And it just blows my mind that feminists do not recognize that this was not a system of oppression. It was a tradition, and whether it's outdated or not, whether it was functional after the Industrial Revolution or not, it doesn't matter. None of those things make it oppressive towards women. It's a matter of women being privileged to have the choice whether to take responsibility for themselves or not. And their responsibilities to their families were something that they also chose by being part of those families. Whereas men were shamed for not having families. And when they did have families, they were the primary person to be responsible for everything to do with the family's welfare.
Yep.
The dynamics of that don't scream oppression to me. They scream cooperation, and they scream inequality in responsibility. But at the same time, that's an evolutionary thing. And if it's outdated today, then women need to step up and take some of that responsibility and quit bitching about what privileges they do or don't have until they earn them by being as accountable as men are.
It would be nice. Oh, and for a little bit of perspective on this, we have a little bonus article that was embedded within this article. Was an anecdote by Ravi Kumar, who says that women treat him like the enemy. He says, quote, "I'm judged by my earning potential long before my personality becomes a consideration. That my generation seems to be expected to take male inequality on the chin, as though we deserve to be punished for sins committed against women in the past. Men and women don't seem to know how to talk to each other anymore. I'm terrified of inadvertently coming across as sexist by saying the wrong thing. If I complain, I'm told to suck it up and be a man. Recently, I went to a speed dating event and told a girl my ambition was to become an accountant. She said she wouldn't date an accountant. She was at the stage in her career where she would want someone who ran their own accountancy firm. I felt snubbed. I feel like I'm not just on the enemy side, but I'm on the losing side, too."
Dang.
Yeah. So, I don't know. So, as an aside, this woman is kind of, I think she's narcissistic. And I think that's one of her issues. So, you can see how many photos she has of herself on her article where she's talking about her son, but it's not really about her son. It's not. It's not about him. It's about her and how she's going to deal with this challenge and how she still has it bad despite the fact that she's done really well. And lastly, where's the father of this kid? Because there's no mention of him in the article, to my knowledge. And I mean, I have to look through it to see. But I don't know that there is. I'll even search for it right now. Hold on.
You know, this is kind of the distinction between the feminist or gynocentric woman and the anti-feminist, anti-gynocentrist. When you look at how feminism affects your child, how feminism in the world affects your child, and you're concerned about the impact, she's concerned about how she's going to feel about how her son is impacted.
Yeah.
Not how her son is going to experience that impact. What's going to happen to him? What's he going to go through? What's his response going to be? Where is it going to land him? You know, all of those things. Whereas if you look at the feminist type, the gynocentrist, they're going to be more concerned about what's he going to need from me? Am I going to be able to reconcile this with my feminism? How am I going to feel about dealing with this? How can I not be sad about this situation, and so on? You know, and it's like the anti-gynocentrist, the anti-feminist, doesn't really, the feelings don't really factor into it. Those can follow. I mean, they can exist. You can express them and everything, but it's really about the kid's welfare more than anything else. Your feelings don't really matter in terms of your child's welfare. What matters in terms of your child's welfare is what happens to the child, how it affects the child, and what the child's outcome is going to be, and how the child feels about it, how he feels about it as he grows into adulthood. You know, how does this affect him emotionally and psychologically? How does this affect him physically? And, you know, there's not really a better time to say, fuck your feelings. Deal with what your child needs. That's what parents do. But yeah, that's the divide.
Yep. Yeah, it was a bit frustrating. Not as bad as the 13-year-old kid that was drawing cartoons, but still pretty cringeworthy. Let me read some super chats, and I guess we'll wrap it up. So, also, guys, how many likes are we at? Let me know how many likes we are at on the thing here. I'll go ahead and refresh the page. Did it even start? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. We have only 5 likes. Come on, guys. We can do better than that. Let me see. Let me try to... Oh, no. We're at 110. All right. All right. There you go. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So, super chats. Ginger Socrates gives us $2 and says, admit it. The day was a birthday wish years ago. This was to Mike. Joey Jojo gives us $5 and says, I was raised by a feminist and single mother. That boy is going to grow up miserable, alone, and full of self-loathing. I know from experience. Right, but you're doing okay now, though, right? You're doing okay now. Xeranx gives us $5 and says, Hannah, Brian, did you get my tweet on the BBC video of women regretting motherhood? I think I did. I believe you... Did you send it recently? Because I kind of recall getting a tweet like that. So I'm pretty sure I did.
Yeah, I think I saw that a little bit before the show as well. I'm not surprised by that either. And I've seen articles and stuff like that before. And can you imagine? I think you had said something about that. Can you imagine? You know, reverse the sexes, and all of a sudden, all of the dialogue would be, you know, take your responsibilities. Women, on the other hand, are treated like victims of their own choices yet again, in that type of discussion. In every article I've seen, every video discussion I've seen of women regretting becoming parents, they're treated like the victims of their own choices there. And it's the same thing over and over again, you know. And it's another area where I turn around and say, fuck your feelings. If you choose to become a custodial parent, you have custody of your child, and you are raising your child, and then focus on your child. That's what choice you've made, and regretting it is stupid. I mean, you're obviously getting the privilege of watching a person grow and develop and having influence on that, and it's a responsibility to do that. And as scary and intimidating as it can be, it's an unbelievable privilege. And for people to turn around and regret it, like, it just blows my mind. Especially women turn around and regret it after you start raising your child. Like, fuck your feelings. Enjoy being a parent and love your children. And raise them to be good people, and be their parent, be their family member. And I know sometimes people I just don't understand other people.
No, I don't know. I guess it's like, how is this hard, you know? And why is it? Oh, I don't. You know what? Never mind. We already talked about that. But yes, I'm with you. I'm with you. All right, so it's time to wrap it up. So we're going to go ahead and close out the show. It's been about 2 hours, so we went a little bit long, but that's okay. There was some extra content to discuss, so it's fine. So guys, feel free to like this video. I see that we have 136 likes so far. We also got 5 dislikes. I'm not going to sweat that. And, you know, share it if you want to. I appreciate that. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Also, once this ban has been lifted from the Badger Livestream channel, that will be the only place to watch the live stream. So please subscribe to that channel, because that's where the work is going to be. And we won't be playing it on the main HBR channel anymore after this ban has been lifted. So please subscribe to that channel. This way we can like better sort of organize where the content goes. So the live streams will be on the live streaming channel, and the more sort of, you know, post-produced, smaller, shorter content will be on this channel once that's all done. So go ahead and subscribe to that channel. If you're not subscribed to this one, subscribe to this one as well. Be sure to hit the notifications, because it's good for you, so you know when we go live and you know when our videos go up. There is a lot of good stuff in the pipeline, and we look forward to having you with us when we bring it to the fore, as it were. So I want to thank Hannah and Max and Mike for joining me on this week's HBR News show. I also want to thank you guys for joining us, because without you, we'd basically be yelling into the